Wonderful day, wonderful day, wonderful day. This is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, telling all y'all stay woke. But relax. Relax. Take notes. I had a reference that I was just thinking of. Lose focus of your purpose and you will compromise your conditions. Now, if you really think about that, what do you think that means? For me, in my definition and explaining, I would state that we have deep within us, or should have, if we haven't reached that point of deep within, a moral foundation, a compass, a guide. And deep within us, that guide is extremely strong. The way that guide weakens is through letting or allowing for what I label that conscious con within you to dictate in what you believe is consciousness in your unconscious movements. And when you allow for that to happen and you lose focus of your moral compass and become lost into the direction of your true identity or your true self or your moral foundation, then you can be compromised in what occurs in your lost direction. There's a lot of commitment and attention and focus that has to be consistent in your navigation. And if you're not consistent in your focus of navigation, you become lost in an ocean full of dangerous animals and people, pirates. I mean, when you think of the whole cyber thing, pirates are hijackers, you know what I'm saying? And people that have or are labeled piraters or hijackers, you know what I'm saying? And you allow for yourself to be hijacked in the ocean of life that you lost focus to navigate. So if you kind of follow me, there's a deep commitment that must be abided in order to have the highest of probability into reaching destinations of true accomplishments and respected pleasure. Due to moral commitment. There was another reference I was thinking of. I don't know if I could remember it at this moment, but yeah, let's just kind of move on. I might remember it within read. Let's get into read, because that's what we need to do right now. And of course, I've been covering this fantastic and fabulous novel by Eckhart Tolle, and you can look him up. I'm not trying to hide the information like it's not out there. You know, you look it up, you read it, decide for yourself. You could read it and then listen through and see if my information and how I translate it relates specifically to what I'm sharing. You know, my thing is, this is the age of information. You look it up. You don't have to believe me. You know what I'm saying? But I don't focus on what one person says. I focus on what a lot of people say, because there's a lot of information out there, whether it's right, wrong, of how you choose to perceive it. But in the end, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because you live how you live, and if you are in denial and into external approaches in dealing with your feelings, I don't know how many times I have to relate to, the hamster wheel, or the box of fear, or being problem based. That's what I was thinking of, problem based. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, again, the power of now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment, and it's really just reclaiming your true self, and stop living by fear and insecurity and things such as people pleasing. It's not, what you do, it's how you do it. Because if it's authentic, you know what I'm saying, then there's a high level of respectability. If it's not authentic, it's clownish. You know what I'm saying? And the more that you fall into that body of living, you're going to continue to suffer in the constant struggles that immaturity festers. So, we in chapter 4. And chapter 4 is mind strategies for avoiding the now. Because a lot of us, I was saying to someone, like, it's easy to be angry. But really think about it. How difficult is it to be authentically nice? There was a statement that someone put or posted on Facebook that I'm ashamed is someone that is on my friend list. I'm like ready to just get rid of this person, because what they put was, what was the statement? It was in regards something like, why is this cab driver going 35 miles per hour to get me home? I'm going to put on a smile on my face before I slap the hell out of him. And it was some goofy thing. And I know, in my opinion, the reason why he did that was for giggles and laughs. And I'm like, would you really slap that person in the face? Because you don't know how they're going to retaliate. Do you have that level of confidence and bravado for someone that is driving, remember, a moving, operating vehicle that you're in some form of faster speed, and you're going to slap them? Why? What's the purpose? And what's even the purpose of stating that? And then here you are with this big old, I want to say gold. It could have been silver, but it was a cross. You know how everybody want to rock that metal. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna call it metal, because realistically that's what it is. Regardless of whatever specific metal it is, it's metal. They got a hunk of metal with the cross, the horizon, the vertical and horizontal, but that's on a whole deeper level. But they got this thing hanging from their neck, which is supposed to be a representation of the Christ, or of love of other brothers, or peace. And the first thing you talking about is slapping the hell out of somebody, but you're going to disguise it with a smile. But you're irritated. You're not at peace. But then you have something representing peace. And then you want to play peace by putting smile. Like that really means something. Like that validates your anger. It doesn't. Why would you even think about stating or thinking something like that, other than the fact that you want to be a clown, and for the sense of entertainment and notoriety, and to have the stage like the Sandman and during Showtime at the Apollo? You know what I'm saying? Unless you yank that clown off the stage, you goofy. And I don't mean the cat that hang out with Mickey and Donald. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, when every cell of your body is so present that it feels vibrant with life, and when you can feel that life every moment as the joy of being, then it can be said that you are free of time. And I hope you understand that. When you are so into the now, you feel this constant energy, this constant joy, this desire to continue to be enlightened. You know what I'm saying? And when you are in that frame of thought, like, everything is fresh. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, for me, and I explain that every day, everything is fresh. Even in moments of compromise or struggle, to call it that, like, I understand what's going on. And, due to that, I make references or direct statements, or feel like I need not, depending on the degree of how I choose to or not to verbalize my feelings, because a lot of times it reach a point to why even speak, you know what I'm saying, because all you doing is more or less trying to convince yourself into not following through with what you know. So anyway, in encounter conversation, the person, of course, because we would all state this when you think of being an adult and having responsibilities, but I still have to pay bills tomorrow, and I am still going to grow old and die just like everybody else. So how can I ever say that I am free of time? Like, you already thinking of the end instead of focusing on living. Like, you focusing on the fact that, of struggle, which you're talking about bills, and you seem, in a sense, frustrated in the, not only that tone in those words, but the following tone by stating that you're going to grow old and die. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already have an end, and you too busy thinking about the end than the moment, because you ain't never say nothing about, living. You talking about dying. So anyway, now the philosopher is going to state, tomorrow's bills are not the problem. The dissolution of the physical body is not the problem, which means you dying eventually. Like, what does that mean? I mean, that's just common physical evolution or cycle. Loss of now is the problem, or rather, the core delusion that turns a mere situation, event, or emotion into a personal problem and into suffering. Loss of now is loss of being. I don't know if you caught that, but we could go over it again, because I already know what it is. I just wanted to pause for you to soak that in. Tomorrow's bills are not the problem. The dissolution, and we'll look that up. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I fumbled a word in the last conversation, and I should have looked it up to be able to pronounce it right. And if I wanted to, I could pull out the book and get back to that word. Dissolution. The closing down or dismissal of an assembly, partnership, or official body. The action or process of dissolving. Disintegration, decomposition. Debauched living or dissipation. Of course, that just in common says the end of existence or dying, just in simple conversation or talk. The dissolution or the dying of the physical body is not the problem. Loss of now is the problem, or rather the core delusion that turns a mere situation, event, or emotional into a personal problem and into suffering. Loss of now is loss of being, because you're going to fester on this thing or this event, and then that turns it into what they call a personal problem. Instead of it is what it is, it's, oh, well, woe's me. And then when you run that woe's me game, then all of a sudden you feel a level of sorrow and pity. You hope for people to pity you. And that is weakness, or that is that conscious con trying to suck you into the emotional feeling beyond being. So let's keep moving. To be free of time is to be free of the psychological need of past for your identity and future, for your fulfillment. So basically, like, you don't need things from the past or memories from the past, or, you know, thinking of a future that isn't there in order to, like, that's not true fulfillment. That's just, you know, wishing. But if you don't live in a current moment and start to motivate in the moment of now, then that future is always just going to be a wish. And then you talking about what if. That's the new wish. I wish only if I could go back. But you can't go back, Bob. You're not a looper. It represents the most profound transformation of consciousness that you can imagine. And that is basically, you know, the focus and fulfillment of getting rid of past and future thought processing and start to move into now. When you have had your first few glimpses of the timeless state of consciousness, which is living in enlightenment and focusing on moments instead of days or the week, you begin to move back and forth between the dimensions of time and presence. So when you first start to get into this identification of being able to differentiate your true self, which is finally being able to have a voice or a stronger voice, and you identify the clown and you know you need to calm that down. So there's always going to be a little bit of a shift where you're going to, you know, there's like a battle between what I was stating earlier, angel, devil on the shoulders, you know, whispering in your ear. You know, for a long time, if you think about the old school animation, you have like Tom and Jerry. You'd have Devil Tom on one shoulder and Angel Tom on the other shoulder, and they're both trying to tell him, one, how to do right, and the other one to be mischievous and go into your emotion and your feelings, and then, you know, due to his fallback of what he usually does, he falls in line with the devil Tom. So then the devil Tom makes the angel Tom vanish, disappear, right? Right? They do it in any one of those classic animations for children. First, you become aware of just how rarely your attention is truly in the now at first. You know what I'm saying? Because at first you're like, man, I seem more stressed than happy. But to know that you are not present is a great success. Again, that's good, because the more that you identify with that, the more you're going to figure out how to change that. Because if you're in denial, then it's just going to continue, because you're like, no, it ain't me. It's somebody else's fault. You know what I'm saying? And it really just comes down to you. Because a lot of things is what it is. And either you're going to fall back and deal with it for whatever, or you are going to fortitude yourself forward and be assertive. Knowing is presence, even if initially it only lasts for a couple of seconds of clock time before it is lost again. Then, with increasing frequency, you choose to have the focus of your consciousness in the present moment rather than the future or past. And whenever you realize that you had lost the now, you are able to stay in it, not just for a couple of seconds, but for longer periods as perceived from the external perspective of clock time. So in clock time, you're just going to have what I label a lot of moments. Instead of the day, there's let me break down that analogy a little bit deeper. Instead of just saying, oh, only, this happened today that was good. And then you just keep focused on that one thing. Like that one thing was the pedestal amongst a bunch of other things that may not have stood out in a greater aspect of moment, but just a small glimpse of a moment that you just chose to dismiss. But that was an important moment too. Like for me, it's just holding the door and being patient no matter how far back someone is, because I already knew when I saw the distance of where the person was at that I am going to hold this door. And I always let them know, like, take your time. And a lot of times, whether it's elderly, a woman, or kids, whatever, I'm like, don't rush. I don't want you to trip or hurt yourself. Like, I'm doing this and standing here because I want to. I can be in a rush to call it that, but why? I'd rather hold the door. So before you are firmly established in the state of presence, which is to say before you are fully conscious, you shift back and forth for a while between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the true self and your character self, or the conscious con. Between the state of presence and the state of mind identification, you lose the now and you return to it again and again. So the more, again, that you recognize and identify the clown in you, the more that real. When we talk about real, I'm keeping it real. Nah, you ain't keeping it real. You keeping it clown. When you really keeping it real, you'll continue to put that clown in its place. You lose the now and you return to it again and again. Eventually, presence becomes your predominant state. The more that you continue to put that clown in its place, then the mature person or being in you manifests and is in control, in true control of your unconscious autopilot. In sleep, you constantly move between the phases of dreamless sleep and the dream state. In wakefulness, most people only shift between ordinary unconsciousness and deep unconsciousness. So, only in a state of sleep, you say, like, you're in a deeper unconscious, like, let's say dream state. People dream. And they say those dreams are deeper meanings to a moral message that something inside of you is trying to tell you. You know what I'm saying? But in your awake state to say, like, you awake and moving around, but you really in your unconscious state. Like that unconscious state, which is being run by what you would think is your conscious, which it is, but it's the evil part in you. So it's harder for you to see those messages or read those messages when the clown self of you is continuously in control. In your sleep state or your dream state, your deeper self is sending those messages, but that could be done more in your awake. It's trying to take over your awake, and you're ignoring it when you're actually awake. But it speaks to you when your awake self is silent or asleep or dormant. But that's only temporary, because once you wake up, sunrise, whatever, autopilot reaction to having to get up and go through the cycle of your living existence. Anyway, let's move on. For most people, presence is experienced either never at all or only accidentally and briefly on rare occasions without being recognized for what it is. Most humans alternate not between consciousness and unconsciousness, but only between different levels of unconsciousness, which means most people are lost in the sauce. Like they zombies, you know what I'm saying? They just moving around, and their character clown, their conscious con there's a bunch of conscious cons just stringing puppets amongst a border or a globe of the world. Only a few people operate without the strings. Anybody that really, really is into the movie game, if anybody ever seen the movie Gamer with Gerard Butler, like, check that out. That's some deep, deep stuff. Ordinary consciousness means being identified with your thought process and emotions, your reactions, desires, and aversions. You are run by the egoic mind, unaware of being. It is a state not of acute pain or unhappiness, but of almost and continuous low level of unease, discontent, boredom, or nervousness. A kind of background static. You may not realize this because it is so much a part of normal, quote, unquote, living. Many people use alcohol, drugs, sex, food, work, television, or even shopping as anesthetics in an unconscious attempt to remove the basic unease. The unease of ordinary unconsciousness turns into the pain of deep unconsciousness, a state of more obvious suffering or unhappiness when things go wrong. The more that you identify with that conscious con, and he likes to abuse the body, your moving self. You know what I'm saying? And that's the pain. The way that you abuse yourself through what you think of yourself and how you treat your physical body, those are all parts of pain. And when things go wrong, you cycle continuously into the abuse of yourself, and you don't even realize what you're doing, or you realize what you're doing, but you so used to being abused and continue to feel like you deserve that. Pretty interesting, because if you understand the story of, again, Horus, Set, and Osiris, and look it up, that's Egyptian mythology. Really look up the simple story. It's a very simple story. Trying to catch up where we are. When the ego is threatened, or there is a major challenge, threat, or loss, real or imagined, in your life situation or conflict in a relationship, when this resistance becomes intensified through some challenge or threat to ego, it brings up intense negativity such as anger, acute fear, aggression, depression, and so on. Deep unconsciousness often means that the pain body has been triggered. You start doing things that create these uncomfortable results by these pain factors that you use and identify with in how you move. Physical violence would be impossible without deep unconsciousness. If you were deep within your true self, like, you wouldn't even abuse yourself. Like, to really love yourself, like, yeah, none of that. You wouldn't even think of that. Depression, I want to kill myself, I want to jump off a building, you know what I'm saying? I want some crack, I want some meth, I just want to go to the bar and just be bummed. Nah, you ain't even think about none of that. The best indicator of your level of consciousness is how you deal with life's challenges. Through those challenges, an already unconscious person tends to become more deeply unconscious, and a conscious person more intensely conscious. Did you follow that? Through challenges, someone that is afraid and chooses to be afraid is gonna be even more afraid the more and more they have to face that thing, that challenge, that obstacle. Someone that is courageous is gonna be more and more intense to being solution based instead of problem oriented. They're gonna attack problems to create solutions sooner than just continuing to fester in the quicksand of problems. If you cannot be present even in normal circumstances, such as when you are sitting alone in a room, walking in the woods, or listening to someone, then you certainly won't be able to stay conscious when something goes wrong or you are faced with difficult people or situations. With loss or the threat of loss, you will be taken over by a reaction, which ultimately is always some form of fear, and pulled into deep unconsciousness. So then you sink into a deeper depression because you are already a depressed person, and since something else happened, it's always something. Oh, nothing ever goes right. Then you just kind of sink deeper and deeper, which is that quicksand I was telling you about. When you learn to be the witness of your thoughts and emotions, which is an essential part of being present, you may be surprised when you first become aware of the background static. And I love the fact they use that word static, because all these distractions, and that's what I call it, is static. You know what I'm saying? And I used to be into the whole DJ game and the music game. And, you know, when you got that skip in the record or that static, like the record is so old that when you play it, you just hear that crackle. Like the crackle is louder than the music and the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Like everything will be crystal clear. You know what I'm saying? It will be like a wave music file, a mastered wave music file. It'll be crystal clear. So again, you may be surprised when you first become aware of the background static of ordinary unconsciousness and realize how rarely, if ever, you are truly at ease with yourself. If you really focus in on how you are, then you'll realize, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I got some issues. Instead of saying, well, it's always someone else's fault of why I feel the way I feel. Once you know how to dissolve ordinary unconsciousness, the light of your presence will shine brightly, and it will be much easier to deal with the deep unconsciousness whenever you feel a gravitational pull. Whenever that negative side starts to try to tap you on the shoulder, when you so into this different way of being, instead of just simply living through abuse, like, you already going to put it in check. If you get inside the right, the outside, if you get the inside right, let me correct myself. If you get the inside right, the inside, the outside will fall into place. Primarily, reality is within. Secondarily, reality without. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Primary reality is within. Secondary reality without. If you have your direction in the right place, which is being in your moral, your deep foundation, then all of this stuff, all of these problems, this whole outside, all these wishes, or, you know, I wish, I hope, only if, like, you ain't even thinking about that. You so focused on being that these things are going to manifest, because you no longer focused on what you don't have. You focused on what you got going on. And then you turn into darn near Austin Powers. You know, for any of you males out there, you know, any female hierarchy of reference that is in line with what I'm talking about, use that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to use Austin Powers. Yeah, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't worried about nothing. You just walking around being. You know what I'm saying? You don't see yourself as whatever they laugh and you like, what's wrong with them? You know what I'm saying? You ain't even thinking that anything's wrong with you, because you know you happening. You now. What are they? You know what I'm saying? You like, oh, they clowns. That's Austin Powers. That's how he rip it off. You know what I'm saying? So we still got more of that chapter 4. This is just the first conversation. And I want y'all to really, really think about who you are. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean like, I'm a carpenter, or, I have this profession, or I'm a male, or I'm a female, or I'm trans. Like, I'm talking about, like, what do you believe in? What is your moral? Do you want people to be hurt, or do you want people to be well? Do you really care about your neighbor, or do you feel comfortable in creating mass murder and being some kind of serial killer? You know what I'm saying? Because you can't have both. It's either or. You know what I'm saying? You can't have your cake and eat it too, if you want to kind of talk in that sense. It's either or when it comes down to, are you going to be enlightened, or are you going to be in darkness? So on that note, I'm going to just say, this is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, telling all y'all stay woke and relax. Relax. And take notes. And remember, be smooth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm wearing this right now because I ain't trying to fit in. You can keep me out of that box. I'm outside the box. I'm an outsider. I ain't trying to be in that group. You know what I'm saying? Inside that box of fear, being run by all those cover protectors of the conscious con. You know what I'm saying? He trying to clown me, abuse me. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't trying to be abused. I ain't dealing with child abuse. I'm a mature being, not a immature liver. And I don't mean the organ. I mean in the aspect of living. So be smooth. One.